Welcome to Public Health Matters, the show that addresses public health issues that matter the most to the citizens of Harford County. Real issues, real people, and the information you need to know.
Hello, I'm Rania Nassar, Public Information Officer for the Harford County Health Department, and your host for today's Public Health Matters, the show that takes a closer look at the public health issues that matter the most to the citizens of Harford County. Today's topic for Public Health Matters is home modifications for older adults. We'll be discussing the importance of aging in place, as well as the resources available in Harford County. Joining us today is Keisha Jennings-Aiken, occupational therapist and owner at the Right Turn Rehabilitation Services, and Stephanie Schwartz, Deputy Director at the Image Center for People with Disabilities. Welcome to our show, and thank you both so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Great. So if you guys don't mind taking a second to introduce yourself and what is your connection to home modifications for older adults? Keisha?
My name's Keisha Jennings-Aiken. I'm an occupational therapist. I've been an occupational therapist for over 16 years.
Wow.
And so I've always taken an interest in working with older adults in their homes, in the community. And I got an executive certificate in home modifications, started working with Medicaid clients, and then I started working with the health department and the Image Center on a home modifications grant through HUD.
Great. Thank you. Stephanie?
Okay, I'm Stephanie Schwartz. I'm currently the Deputy Director for the Image Center of Maryland. We are a CIL, we're a Center for Independent Living that works directly with individuals with disabilities. I started out there as the Director of the Home Modification Program. We have some assistive technology and home modification programs and grants. And I've had a lifelong disability, so it has always been forefront in my mind to make things easier to get around the house.
That's amazing. Wow, just a wealth of knowledge with us today, so this is awesome. Let's get started to talk about what are home modifications and why might someone need a home modification?
So home modifications are small changes to the home that allow people to move around safely, do their self-care safely, and sometimes the home modifications are needed if there's physical changes, like someone had a stroke and they're not able to get up and down the stairs or in and out of the bathroom. For some of our clients, home modifications are needed if there's cognitive changes, reminders. Everyone has an Alexa now, reminders for medication, reminders for doctor's appointments, communication. So it's a wide range. Again, it can be physical, medical, cognitive. We've had a few visually impaired clients as well. So all of those different things, when you live alone or you live with an older spouse, sometimes you have to just change the environment so that you can manage safely in that environment.
That's great. So what are some examples of home modifications that older adults might need?
Well, everyone knows the standards, grab bars or wheelchair ramps. But we look at other things such as, again, if someone has a smart device, there's smart pill dispensers that'll remind the person of when to take their medicine, when to reset the medicine. Or there's also things like shower chairs, lift recliners. So we have a lot of clients who, for whatever reason, don't sleep in the bed anymore because it's difficult to get in and out, and they sleep in recliners. We get them recliners that help them lift. Railings on the inside of the house and the outside of the house, railings throughout the house. And then something as small as like treading for the stairs or lighting at the stairs. I look at the safety when people are getting up and moving at night because that's when they tend to fall a lot. And so making sure there's night lights throughout the distance from the bathroom, to the bedroom to the bathroom.
And there's also, with the technology today, the smart lights, having someone who can say, turn on the lights.
Yes.
Instead of having to get out of bed to hit the light switch.
I love that you guys are utilizing technology to really kind of help with these home modifications. There's just so much out there. So that's really interesting, especially with the pill reminder. I think utilizing that and getting those that age to kind of like talk it through, and especially if they don't have to move, they can just say, "Hey, Alexa." So I think that's great. What are the goals for providing home modifications?
One of the main goals, besides safely remaining in the home, is fall prevention.
Okay.
And a lot of people, I got involved with home modifications because I did a lot of research on fall prevention, the overall cost to like each state, the overall cost to each county when someone has to be hospitalized,
Wow.
when they have to be placed in a nursing home or a rehab center. All of those things take a toll on the person individually, the family, but also the county and the state that are providing those medical services. And so one of the biggest reasons, for home modifications is just to make sure we're keeping the client safe in their home and that we are preventing falls and preventing injuries.
That's a great segue to my next question. So why is it important for older adults to age in place? And how can it affect someone, whether mentally or physically, when they're not able to age in place?
It's very important for their mental state, for their emotional state. Many people, especially the older population, have been in one place, so it's comfortable. They know it's a known area. When they're taken out of that environment, they become scared. They may not be familiar with where they're going, so you're going to have more instances of issues or difficulties.
I agree with that. A lot of clients, when they're removed, especially when there starts to be like visual or cognitive changes, and when I say cognitive, I mean trouble with memory, orientation, but when you have trouble with those areas, you tend to be more confused, and it can create like anxiety, it can create a higher fall risk. So that's some of the reasons why we really look at like fall prevention and keeping people in a well-known environment.
Yeah, and I'm sure too, just mentally, like if they're happy in their home, you want them to stay happy. And I think that it's great that there are resources out there to kind of help older adults to kind of be happy in their home. I love, that one of your program is Healthy, Happy Homes, because, we really want to focus on making sure these older adults are comfortable. So this is great. What are some things that older adults can do on their own that would help them improve their chances of being able to age in place?
As a therapist, as physical or occupational therapist, we're always going to tell you to try to stay active.
Yes.
Try to stay active. Another thing is trying to stay engaged. The clients that I work with, if they're engaged, whether it's going to activity centers, church meetings, social events, they pick up their grandkids from school or meet their sister for dinner weekly. Those people are less likely to start having debilitating changes, and if they have them, it's not going to happen so quickly. So I always tell people, stay active, stay engaged, and stay on top of your medical care. Like, make sure you're doing your follow-ups with your doctors. If they put you on a medication and you notice that now you're dizzy, make sure you follow up and make sure that medication is the best fit for you.
Being active, of course, is always very, very important, but also getting out there and starting a routine, joining a book club, meeting your neighbors. We all tend to stay inside. We all tend to kind of not look outside. But if you have a routine, if you once a month you go and meet with 8 other people to read a book, or you talk to your neighbors every morning and they see you, that's also something that sets you up for when you do need assistance, because you've got that connection and you've expanded the people that can provide you that assistance.
Huge in public health, we always talk about social determinants of health, and in that we always talk about built environment, community, and I really want to touch on again how you mentioned the importance of going to a book club, or taking their grandkids maybe to school, and that community environment really is something important in public health, and it can be an indicator for individuals living a long, healthy life, because they just have a group to rely on. So it's just a huge public health connection by just making sure that there's opportunities like that available in the community, and making sure that we keep explaining the importance of community contacts, especially here in Harford County. And we're lucky to have so many options. We have our senior centers, and we have a lot of great just like walking paths for individuals to kind of enjoy that time together. So I think that's great that we're bringing that up. I want to go into now, we talked a little bit about the importance about helping with fall prevention. So can we explain a little bit about what is fall prevention?
Fall prevention is just ways or changes to help to prevent someone from having a fall or sustaining an injury. Fall prevention can be something such as having a grab bar in the bathroom, a handrail when you're coming in and out of your house, lighting a lighting path when you're going to the bathroom. As Stephanie said, the smart device to turn the lights on. So it's just small changes or minor changes to prevent someone from losing their balance and having an injury. That can sometimes be having outpatient therapy services if you notice you have a balance issue. So it can go beyond just the home. It can be different mechanisms and different therapies and activities that help with your balance and preventing falls.
So what are some examples of fall risks in the household, and what are the causes?
Well, a lot of people have dogs and cats.
Okay.
And your pets now, they are extremely important because they add to that.
Yes, the community.
Yes, the community and then the love. But they have a tendency to leave hard, slippery toys in the middle of the floor when we don't need them. So, and as someone who has been a lifelong dog lover, and is convinced that my dog is trying to, bump me off. Before I go to bed at night, we actually have a box, and we put the toys away and outside because there's nothing worse than getting up in the middle of the night and finding a hard toy. Right.
And the other thing I would add too is also like when you look at a slippery floor, like if you have a leak in your bathroom and you know it's been leaking, and I have clients who will put 5 towels down because they can't afford to get it fixed. So wet floors, cords throughout the home are they're a huge fall risk, cords throughout the home. And then just having things on an even height. So some of my little petite ladies fall as they're trying to reach up for the Dutch oven pan that they only use once a year, and they tend to fall backwards. So it's just having things on an even level.
Yeah, and I'm sure, they also, everything is just high to reach, so they want to use their stools, so they have to use, that could be an issue, and, going up and down the stairs, that could be slippery too, so I can
And even just,
that.
like I tell people, just dust or worn out carpets. A lot of people don't realize that worn out carpets on the stairs are a huge fall risk. There's no traction, the carpet's moving as you're moving. And so we've had a few clients in our program where we've removed the carpet and just did like non-skid, like threading for the floor, like threading strips for the floor. And that tends to help, and especially for people who told me they've had a slip on the steps or they're concerned about falling down the steps.
And using the appropriate items. If you are trying to step up and reach something, if you have a small one-step stool, as opposed to trying to climb up a chair, or there's a box that is sitting there, and it's more convenient to step, not doing those kinds of things.
Yeah. I know it might be easier to just grab one thing, but it's like for safety wise, we got to grab the other. And then I know probably too, it's like, oh, this was my favorite carpet. It's just also kind of working on getting them to understand the day-to-day changes that they might have to make could also be a lot, especially we got to keep talking about the importance of that. So Keisha, how does occupational therapy tie into aging in place?
So as occupational therapists, our goal is to help our clients have a meaningful and fulfilling life. We're big on quality of life. Despite any changes they're having, whether it's age-related or, like I said, medical, if it's something that they've had at birth. And so with aging in place, as an occupational therapist, I come into the home, I look at my client directly, I go through their routine and what they have difficulty with, and then I talk to them about like what's really important. So for me, I might say, I really think you should have, a railing to go down to the laundry room and a stackable washer and dryer so that everything's higher up. And my client might say, I just want to be able to garden. And so sometimes it's a fine line between what I feel like they need to stay safe and what they need, because, leisure activity is a big part of quality of life. And so it's just, as an occupational therapist, I go in, I talk about the role of aging, I look at why they might have these changes, and then we kind of work together as a unit, as a team, to figure out how we can make them safer, not just in the immediate moment, but 5 to 10 years from now.
I love that. I love talking about occupational therapy. We did do an episode, not too long about occupational health, and sometimes people are confused because the word occupation is in it, so they think, oh, this is just, for my job. But you guys play such an important role in, the community, because you really are making sure that these people live their day-to-day lives in a healthy, safe way. And, people might not understand the importance. So that's why I'm glad we're talking about this today, to kind of really show the important and pivotal role you guys play in the lives of, it's not even just older adults, but many individuals in the community. So I appreciate you guys.
Oh, thank you.
I want to talk a little bit about now how family members can support their loved ones with aging in place.
The first step, I would say, is just to be open-minded. I mean, especially, when I look at my dad or some of, like, my uncles, that's a generation that's used to doing everything on their own. And so change is hard. And so when I work with clients and they have, and their kids mean well, or grandkids, but when they come in and it's almost a little, as the client would say, overbearing, and, they instantly go to a defense. Like, you're not my boss. Like, I can make these decisions. I always try to come in open-minded. Like, I know you love to clean the leaves off the roof when you were in your 40s and 50s, but it's just not safe to do at 78. And so I try to talk them through it, but also making the person feel like they still have meaning.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part when you're working with people who are having changes. It's hard to accept, and it's hard to ask for help. I mean, I think any generation beyond maybe the next 10 or 20 years, it's really difficult for us to ask for help and to acknowledge that life is changing and physically we're changing. And so I think that whenever I did therapy in the homes, whether it was home therapy or with home modifications, my first thought is to go in with an open mind and to go in and help that person acknowledge that no matter what the changes are, you still have meaning, you still have purpose. We just have to figure out how to make you safe when you're doing those things.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, meeting the person where they are and understanding. The loss of independence is very scary, and we have to, and family has to understand and try to be more sympathetic. Yes, we have to keep them safe, but we don't have to lock them in a room. And wrap them in bubble wrap. Yeah. There are things we can do.
They're meant to enjoy their lives, And I think, too, another way I think family members could support their loved ones is working them through the change. This is a huge part of their life, and I think as we, age or get older, change is harder for us to accept. So, your house looked a certain way your entire life. I mean, some of these individuals probably lived in their houses their whole lives, and now we're changing maybe the look of it, and they might not think it looks okay, but it's more about that health and that safety aspect versus that look anymore. And I think working them through that change is really, really important.
I agree.
What is accessibility for adults, and why is it important?
So accessibility for adults, if you look at it from a community standpoint, it's making sure that a person who has a disability can have access to public buildings, can have access to public bathrooms, can have access to schools and government buildings. It's just making sure that you have measures in place that allow any person who needs to use this building to access it safely.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think accessibility, tying that into what we're talking about today, is really important. Again, there's the changes that you make physically to the home, but there's also some other changes that aren't physical that we could do as well. Are there any disadvantages to aging in place?
If they don't have that support system, there can be loneliness, there can be other aspects that they aren't able to do without that community support or that family support. There has to be a support group for them in order to make a lot of this happen every day. And by setting those goals and doing these things ahead of time, you know, joining the clubs and meeting the neighbors and getting the family to understand the importance before it becomes a huge problem goes a long way to making sure that they are able to continue that living in the home.
I agree. I would say the biggest disadvantage without that network of support, whether it's caregivers that you've worked with in the past, family members, friends, co-workers that you've been retired 30 years, but you still meet with your co-workers, is isolation. And isolation can really cause people to deteriorate physically as well as mentally. Like if you don't have that support of just someone saying, hey, I care about you and I want to make sure you're okay, it can be a huge disadvantage to aging in place. So when we work with clients, sometimes like I'll refer them to Stephanie's program, to the Image Center, you know, I'll refer them to the health department, and so that we're trying to use, once they're finished with like the home modifications or the occupational therapy part of it, there's at least someone that's stopping in or calling or to say, hey, do you need anything? Hey, if you need Meals on Wheels, okay, you know, the health department will connect you to someone who can connect you with someone who will get you Meals on Wheels. So it's just trying to make sure that the person isn't isolated.
Yes. I know at the health department in our behavioral health group, we have a support group for older women. And again, we've seen kind of the benefit of that, of talked about, you know, joining that community. So we're glad that we have a lot of resources in the community that can kind of connect them to those programs that we have. What resources are available in Harford County for home modifications for older adults?
Well, you have the Healthy Happy Homes program, which is through a partnership between the Right Turn Rehabilitation Services, the Image Center of Maryland, and the Harford County Health Department. And so that program services individuals, I think, 62 and older. So we don't call them seniors. They're just mature adults or older adults who own their homes and they have some changes, or they may be, I've worked with some of the adults who still work part-time, but they plan to stay in their home for another 15, 20 years. And so they have concerns, like, you know, they'll say to me, like, I've never fallen in the shower, but I am concerned about it. Or, you know, I've never fallen going down the front steps, but I do get nervous when I'm carrying in groceries. And so this program would come in as an occupational therapist. I would kind of do the initial assessment, see what the client's needs are, create a work order, and I send that over to Stephanie.
Right. And then we take that and we work with the contractors that we have to make as much of that happen as possible. We also did get a new version of this grant with the HUD, which is through the Image Center of Maryland, directly with HUD. And then that program will continue, and it does include people who rent, not just homeowners.
And you do have the
ILAT program. There is another grant program that covers Harford County, Baltimore County, and Baltimore City that is outside of the HUD program. It is actually put through by DOORS, Department of Rehabilitation.
And I think we've referred clients back and forth. If like I have a client who's had a amputee and they want to get back to driving, it's a huge cost. But then I see them for part of it. I refer them to Stephanie and for the second part so that we can help cover the cost. So aging in place also includes community mobility. So making sure we can cover as much as possible.
Right. What are the eligibility requirements for the Happy Healthy Homes program?
So 62 and older. I don't know the income requirements.
That's what I know.
They have to own the home.
For the one program, they actually have to own the home. They have to have homeowners insurance. And for that particular program, they have to be on the deed. They do have to actually own the home.
Okay.
Our new grant does allow for the option if there is an older adult that is that is living with their children, or renting. So the new grant does have opportunities for people who have who do not own their own home, and we can still provide those same services.
That's awesome. That's such a
just
great help
started.
in the community.
Give us a little bit.
Yes.
It's just started, but yes.
That is awesome. Is there anything else that you both would like to add about today?
I would just say, you know, getting older is scary. It's scary for anyone, whether you're turning whether you're going from 30s to 40s or 70s to 80s. Just kind of, like I said, be patient. If it's someone in your family, be patient with the person. Introduce small changes. Like that's the best way to get someone to be open about being comfortable talking, discussing what their challenges might be. It's just, you know, just implement small changes little by little and just give that person a little bit of grace. So that's something we just have to do as we all are getting older.
That's great.
So there are resources out there, the senior centers, the Department of Aging, the Image Center of Maryland.
Yes.
We are a SIL. We are made up at least 51%, I think we're much higher, of individuals with disabilities. So we understand. We know it, we live it, we do it. So it's a matter of reaching out to these organizations and letting us help you.
That's amazing. Thank you both so much. And that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank my guests on today's show, Keisha and Stephanie. And if you'd like more information on home modifications for older adults, please refer to the resources page after the show. And join us next time for another important health issue that matter the most to the citizens of Harford County. Thank you so much for watching.
You've been watching Public Health Matters, brought to you by HarfordTV. Watch what matters.